Opposites attract. In a relationship, this may be because continual peace and harmony may be as threatening to the relationship as discord or disharmony may be. So we possibly choose a partner that is unlike ourselves. A largely popular show on TV is The Big Bang Theory, where the characters of Leonard and Penny have married, which is a highly unlikely pair. Leonard is a typical-looking nerd whose hobbies are comic books, video games, and sci-fi shows. Penny is a beautiful sometime actress who likes to watch sporting events, shop, and drink wine. The show has gone to great lengths to make sure the viewers see these two as an unlikely match. But at this time, it works. After all, they have chosen each other after many years of on and off dating, and they know each other well enough that they know when one person can be up, the other will be down, and eventually the positions would reverse. But every so often, there is a balance. Finding the balance is the difficult part. Jesus took the apostles away from the crowds that always gathered wherever he showed up. He wanted a place where they would not be interrupted, a place where the solitude fed their closeness and furthered their understanding of the present situation and what was to come. Jesus was most likely solemn because he was unfolding to his inner circle the events that were to take place, that of his passion and his death. This was a time of quiet contemplation and thoughtful discernment of the coming days. Jesus was hoping for an understanding of his role here and a peace to know that his works would continue. On the other hand, the apostles seemed to let it go over their heads what this was all about. Instead of showing concern or fear over what they heard or even questioning what they were hearing, they decided to argue among them who was top dog. When Jesus questioned them as to what they were arguing about, they had a feeling that they were off base and did not want to make an admission of their callousness to what he had told them when he was unburdening his heart. They were concerned only for themselves and for what position they held in the group. This could possibly symbolize what we find today. People more concerned about who they are or what they are, as opposed to what they may find in life after this one. What a contrast this passage shows us. Jesus, the one concerned for all, and the apostles, who seemed to be all self-engrossed. It seemed to be selfish ambition of the apostles, as our second reading from James mentions. Where one looks only to themselves for their own passions, James calls them disordered and conveyors of every foul practice. James goes on to say they are not given from above because they ask for gifts not for others, but for their own selfish gains. We, as followers of Jesus, should be acting with wisdom from above, as it is pure, peaceable, gentle, compliant. In other words, the opposites of this world and of the above are in conflict, and we need to seek that which is righteous. We are not wrong to seek out righteousness, but we can expect to be challenged or even avoided because of our commitment to this virtue. As the wisdom reading points out, there are many who want to overtake those who are righteous because the opposition here thinks of the righteous as obnoxious and wants to continually test their ways to see if they can prevail. That's because they know this virtue does not emanate from here, but from God. We need to be aware of these people who convey higher stations so we don't suffer the same circumstance the apostles did or that of the people James speaks. The apostles let their worldly desires get the best of them when they argued who was the best. They were not comprehending of the things above that Jesus was trying to get them to see. Their balance was off, and possibly due to their own foolish ambitions. Before being chosen as an apostle by Jesus, Matthew his ambitions were to collect all the taxes he could. He was a tax collector, sitting and counting his collections when Jesus approached him and asked him to follow. Matthew walked away from all the money he collected, all the riches that are so treasured by many. And this past week, we celebrated this apostleship of Matthew. A fitting passage from his writings goes like this: "The kingdom of heaven is like a treasure hidden in a field, which a man found and covered up. Then in his joy he goes and sells all he has and buys that field." Here Matthew mentions the opposites of heaven and earth. The greatest treasure is that of above heaven, and we can think of it as being whatever the greatest treasure on earth would be. The contrast of opposites, treasure on earth is opposed to that of heaven. Matthew did that, gave up his riches, received being a tax collector in the here and now, to that gift of heaven that Jesus offers. The field is of this earth, and the treasure is of the above, opposite to each other, as in life here and life hereafter. The scales tipped one way for Matthew when he was a tax collector, and then the other as an apostle. He found the balance when he reconciled the two. We are to see opposition in what Jesus talks about to the apostles versus what the apostles argue about. How the non-righteous look down on the righteous so as to keep the righteous earthbound. How our own selfish ambitions also keep us earthbound. We are to realize the differences in what we have versus what we could have. Only then can we see the way to make us want to follow Jesus and be received by the one who sent him. This may be why opposites attract, so they can show us what we don't have and what our search is for.